Hello, dear students, welcome back. This is another video from Dr.Anil's Botany. Today, let us discuss Weismann's germplasm theory. The Weismann was an ardent supporter of Darwin's germplasm theory. He proposed a germplasm theory based on two principles. That is, one is called somatoplasm. All the living things are made up of two things. One is called germplasm and another one is called somatoplasm. Let us see one by one. So Weismann's germplasm theory. So I told you earlier, August Weismann was a new Darwinian biologist. Neo-Darwinian biologist. Otherwise, we can say he was an ardent supporter of Darwinism. He proposed the germplasm theory in his book, Das Plasma. Right? Das Plasma. He said that variations are of two types. What are they? Some are congenital. Some are congenital. That means the organisms are born with them. That is congenital. Others, the acquired characters that we have discussed in the last class. The Lamarcks believed that the acquired characters are transmitted from generation to generation. Right? Or in other words, the acquired characters during the lifetime of a particular plant or animal, it is transmitted. So he said that the variations are, or the Weisman said that the variations are of two types. What are they? One is congenital and another one is acquired characters. The Weisman was very much concerned about the acquired characters. That is why he gradually developed this theory of germplasm. And this germplasm clearly said that the acquired characters could not be inherited. Acquired characters, it could not be inherited. Right? And that was the basic, the principles of Weismann's germplasm theory. Weismann believes that there are two types of variations. One is acquired characters. Acquired characters, he strongly disobey that. These acquired characters could not be inherited to their offspring. Lamarck believes that the acquired characters are transmitted from generation to generation. And Weismann believes that there are two types of variation. One is confluent, congenital. That is congenital. Congenital means an organism born with them. The other thing is during their lifetime, it is acquired. And this is the main thing. The living things are made up of two types of things. The one is called germplasm and another one is called somatoplasm. Germplasm and somatoplasm. Let us see. The main points of germplasm theory, based on the concept that the living bodies are formed of two fundamentally different kind of materials. One is germplasm, that means the protoplasm seen inside the sperm and ova, and the somatoplasm means the protoplasm seen inside the vegetative body parts or the body parts, vegetative cells or somatic cells. The germplasm is responsible for the development of reproductive parts. They are, and they remains in the organism. They are sealed and secluded from the somatoplasm. We all know that the germplasm is entirely different from the somatoplasm, right? And the Weisman believes that each and every organism is made up of two fundamental things. One is called germplasm and another one is called somatoplasm. In the first case, in course of time, the germplasm gives rise to offsprings, which again the germplasm remains separate from the new somatoplasm that it develops. Right? I will tell you an example. If fertilized egg, the fertilized egg produces an offspring, and they produces a new somatoplasm and germplasm separately. What are the characters or variations produced in the somatoplasm could not be transmitted to their offsprings. The variations found in the germplasm, it must be transmitted to their offsprings. The germplasm is a continuous stream from generation to generation. Germplasm is continuous, whereas in the case of somatoplasm is discontinuous. Right? Bisexual plants and animals, every generation the germplasm streams becomes a confluence. Confluence of the maternal and paternal stream. Confluence. What we mean by confluence? Process of merging. Confluence means the process of merging. The sperm and ova fuses together. That is, confluence. Right? Then Weisman concluded that the somatoplasm is discontinuous. I told you earlier, the somatoplasm is discontinuous, whereas the germplasm is continuous. Somatoplasm is discontinuous entity, and the germplasm is continuous entity. The mutations which are germinal in their origin can possibly be handed down. The mutations takes place in the germinal cells. That must be transmitted. The germplasm is immortal, right? Germplasm is immortal since it is perpetuated from generation to generation through meiosis, whereas somatoplasm is mortal. It perishes with the death of an organism. I will tell you another example. In the case of pollen grains, the pollen grains may be viable for thousands of years. 2,000 years old pollen grains may develop into a new individual. So the germplasm is immortal, whereas somatoplasm is mortal. Right? Could you follow me? Then the third, postulates, the Weisman proposed that every distinct part of an organism is represented in the sex cells by a separate particle, otherwise called determinant. And these determinants were later called factors, and these factors are now called genes, or the genes are present inside the germinal cells. Each determinant is supposed to be made up of still smaller units. Determinant may be a smaller unit we call it as bioforce, small units. So we know the chromosome theory of inheritance. Chromosome theory, what is it says? The chromosomes, it is the carriers of genes. And the chromonomata, you can see numerous beetle-like structures, and these beetle-like structures are called genes or gene locus, and they are arranged in the in the form of linearly arranged in the chromosomes or chromonomata. And the sum total of determinants would represent the parts of the adult organism with all their peculiarities. They only determines the organisms with different characters. The determinants, according to Weisman, they are localized in the chromosomes of the nucleus. They are localized in the chromosomes of nucleus. See, another one is in apposition of Lamarck's inheritance, apposition of Lamarck's inheritance of acquired characters. Weisman introduced the idea of parallel induction. There may be a parallel induction. That means germplasm and somatoplasm is, it is in parallel in origin. According to this concept, the stimulus affects simultaneously in the germplasm and the somatoplasm or the body cells. Right? According to this concept, the stimulus the external, maybe internal, and these stimulus may affect simultaneously both the germplasm and the somatoplasm. He proposed the occurrence of an internal stimulus which affects germ cells and results in heritable variations. Whenever the stimulus affects the germinal cells, whenever a mutation takes place inside the germinal cells, it must be transmitted to the offsprings. The stimulus, according to him, the nourishment. What is the stimulus? Stimulus means according to Weisman, the stimulus is nothing but the nourishment which is necessary for no determinants or biofoods. What type of nourishment? I will tell you another example. In the case of honeybees, the similar type of eggs, they produce us queen and workers. See, that mainly depends upon the nourishment, right? Those determinants or particles which obtain better nourishment are fast growing and stronger than those getting less nourishment, right? Correspondingly, these particles tend to produce either strong or weaker part or organ in an organism. So Weisman assumed a struggle for existence. Weisman is an ardent supporter of Darwinism. That is why he assumed a struggle for existence, like Darwin's theory. Darwin also said that there is a struggle for existence. That means the best fit varieties can survive. The less fit varieties can gradually eliminate. That is the survival of the fittest, otherwise called natural selection. The basic man assumed that a struggle for existence between better nourished and less nourished determinants or genes or factors, there lies in the course of appearance and disappearance of variations. To account for polymorphism, Weisman developed a hypothesis of germinal selection. Polymorphism, a similar organs having different structures, that is called polymorphism. Weisman developed a hypothesis of germinal selection. He said that the germplasm has got not a single set of determinants, but a number of different set of determinants. The number of chromosomes, so we can say each and every chromosome. You have already seen that there must be a sex determining chromosomes, allosomes, and autosomes that determines the body characters. Likewise, the Weisman also said that the germplasm had not only a single set of determinants but a number of different sets of determinants. It is the environment that decides which set of determinants will express themselves. The environment only decides, the nature only decides what type of determinants will express. Thus, there are many number of determinants struggling for expression within the germplasm, and finally, one set is selected out by the environment. No, this is called natural selection that we have seen in the case of Darwinism. So very interestingly, Weisman said that there must be no germplasm and somatoplasm. In the germplasm is secluded from the somatoplasm. In this germplasm, you can see the determinants, and these determinants were later called factors, and these factors are now called genes. Right? Likewise, the Weisman's germplasm theory. He believes in germplasm. Germplasm only the characters or variations or stimulus that takes place inside the germinal cells or mutations that takes place in the germinal cells. That mutations only transmitted to the offsprings. Could you follow me? And then objections to Weisman's germplasm theory. There may be so many objections. And the first one is germplasm theory is criticized mainly for its speculativeness. No, mainly for its speculativeness. There is no laboratory or experimental support, lab support. It lacks any experimental support, and also for its idea of determinants and their segregation during cleavage, and for its failure for explaining process of asexual reproduction and regeneration. Now, the sexual reproduction only you can see different types of variations, but in the case of asexual reproduction, the no, the individuals of the same type can be produced. So that is the first objection to Weismann's theory. Then significance of Weismann germplasm theory. There may be so many significance. What is the significance of Weismann's germplasm theory? The idea of continuity and immortality of germplasm prepared the ground for the continuity of chromosome or DNA from one generation to next. Right? This is the continuity or chromosome or DNA that now we have seen. The DNA or the chromosomes are inherited from one generation to the other. It made ground for the understanding of the concept of particulate inheritance of a mental. Right? This is the significance of Weismann's theory. It provides some clue about genes, and this theory give a lights to the determinants, that these determinants are later called genes, and give some light or throw lights to the finding of the genes which reside in chromosome and represent some part of animal body. The greatest contribution of this theory, according to the embryologist, is that it proposes the division of germplasm and somatoplasm during cleavage of the zygote during the embryogenesis. There is a clear-cut distinction or cleavage, somatoplasm and germplasm at the time of cleavage of zygotes. So that much about Weismann's germplasm theory. There must be objections. What is the main objection of Weismann's theory? The main objection of Weismann's theory is that it's a speculativeness. There is no experimental support. That is the main objection of Weismann's theory. What is the significance? And this Weismann's theory, it shows a right path towards finding out the genes. And where these genes are present in the chromosomes. And the variations takes place in the chromosomes, it must be transmitted to the offsprings or progenies. That is the significance. At the time of Weismann, he said that it is only the determinants or determinants. Mendel also said that there are certain factors. Each and every character is determined by a physical body, he called as determinants. And these determinants were later called factors, and these factors are now called genes. And the Weismann's theory also give a clear-cut picture towards the finding out of genes. That is the significance of Weismann's theory, somatoplasm and germplasm. And he believes that at the time of cleavage, the zygote, when the time of at the time of cleavage, it clearly divides into two portions, that is germplasm and somatoplasm. Germplasm is secluded, and this is the significance of Weismann's germplasm theory. Could you follow me? Shall we stop today's class? Thank you very much for your patient hearing.